Yo, hey everyone, Andrew here, bringing you another video review, and today we're going to be doing Superboy, the Boy of Steel. Take a look at this comic cover right here. Now, some of you guys may not know, but I'm actually a huge Superboy fan. I don't talk about him all that much outside the Titans book, but I actually really like Superboy because I think he's such a unique character in the Superman family. See, his backstory is incredibly unique and incredibly fascinating. See, with Superman, Kara, Power Girl, and even Krypto the Superdog, they all have kind of the same backstory. They were launched in a rocket from Krypton and came to Earth. Power Girl's Earth too, Krypton, but, you get the gist. They have pretty much the same backstory. But see, Superboy, he doesn't. He's actually a genetic clone of Superman and Lex Luthor. That's freaking awesome. It gives so much story possibilities and potential for this character. In addition to that, with the Superman family, it's always been an outsiders looking in concept. Even with Clark, who spent all his life on Earth, really feels like an outsider looking in. But Connor is actually an insider looking out. He's a person that feels very much at home on Earth. And he has all these superpowers, and he's nothing like anyone else in the Superman family. He is kind of an outsider. In a good way. So I always liked Superboy. I always thought he was a unique character. But despite how unique he was, he's, out of the whole entire Superman family, he's the one probably used the least in the Superman comics. Superman, as a character and a comic, by nature is a loner. Despite how much shit he gives Batman, let's be honest, Batman has a whole army worth of sidekicks. Superman barely uses any of his supporting characters. And I'm not talking about Lois, Perry, and Jimmy Olsen. No, I'm talking about Supergirl and Power Girl and Steel and Krypto. And, of course, Superboy. And out of all these supporting characters, Superboy is probably the one used the least. Superman didn't even like Superboy when he first came on. Felt uneasy about him. Don't know why, but he did. It's kind of like in the Young Justice TV show. Superman really doesn't want to associate with Superboy at first. Of course, Superboy is back to life now. Superman's all happy-go with Superboy, and they're like, oh yeah, cool, we're chill. But in all honesty, Superboy really hasn't been in much of Superman stories. Off the top of my head, I could think of maybe The Death and Return of Superman, Critical Condition, Last Stand in New Krypton, and War of the Superman, and that's about it. I can't really think of anything else other than that. I mean, even the dog Krypto gets more face time in Superman comics than Superboy. To be honest, Superboy's been more or less a Young Justice, Teen Titans character more than he's ever been a Superman character. But then again, to be honest, with the exception of the Batman universe, sidekicks are never really ever used much in their comics. Wonder Girl never really shows up in the Wonder Woman comics. Well, actually, Aqualad and Speedy do show up quite a bit in their respective mentors' comics, but in general, I mean, superhero sidekicks really don't work well in the main comics much anymore, outside of Batman. But hey, it still pisses me off that they don't use Superboy the way they should in Superman comics. So when I heard that they were going to relaunch Superboy into a comic, because he did have a series back in 1993, I was ecstatic. I was so happy. But I was also very cautious because, see, Superboy left on such an interesting note. He got killed in the Infinite Crisis and brought back in the Final Crisis. But he left on such an interesting note with his friends and his family and his perception on life. And, well, where do you pick things up from there? How do you work with Superboy after he's died and really been at peace with himself? As much as Superboy should not have died, his death was freaking awesome. Especially the last words he says when Wonder Girl is right over him and she says, you saved the world. And he said, yeah, isn't it cool? And he just dies. That was a cool death scene. But really, where do you go from there? What do you do? It's the same question that could be asked for, like, Barry Allen. This is a guy that's done it all, and now he's coming back. How do you work with the character? Well, Barry Allen is being worked with by Jeff Johns, and guess who's writing this? Jeff Johns. So, we're just going to have to see if this comic truly lives up to the expectations that I personally hold for it. Because I'm being selfish. absolutely selfish. So with that said, let's jump into the story itself. The story is interesting. See, Superboy is back to life and he's starting to do stuff kind of like what Superman did. He moved into Kansas, Smallville, with Ma, and that's something Superman did. Lived with Ma and Pa, and he's Superboy, something Superman did. He joined up with a team, Teen Titans, leading the superheroes, something Superman does. He doesn't lie. He saves people. He's doing all this stuff Superman does. And when he goes home at night, he has this little booklet, and he does a checklist of all the things Superman does. But on the other side of the page is a checklist of all the things Lex Luthor does. See, Superboy, despite really dying at peace, still feels uncomfortable in the fact that he is part Lex Luthor, part Superman. And I always found it kind of perplexing that he always focused on the Lex more than the Superman. Because, see, he thinks that because Lex is bad, that initially he's going to be bad. But God, you have practical Jesus version 2.0 and Superman as the other half. It balanced things out, I would think. But yes, he's still worried that, well, Lex is a bad person, so that means he's a bad person. And while he's going on this quest to see if he really is this bad person, he gets to meet up with some of his old friends. Wonder Girl comes back and they reignite their relationship in a very beautiful, touching scene. Him and Tim have a meeting in Paris, and Lex Luthor teams up with Brainiac and have an interesting conversation with Superboy. One that is really Lex at his best. So the question is this. Is Superboy more Superman? Is Superboy more Lex Luthor? Or is Superboy something else completely different from those two? Well, you're just going to have to read and see. On to the good, the bad, and whether or not you should get it. Good. Well, let me start things off with the art. The art is absolutely beautiful in this. This artist has done work on the Superman Batman series, and I really liked his work on that. It has a light tone, and it has a very bright nature to it. Now, I'm probably going to butcher the name, but Francis Manapul? I'm horrible at pronunciation of words. Hey, my girlfriend is amazing at that stuff. That's why I always go to her when I need to figure out an artist or writer's name. But really, the art is absolutely stunning, and you can kind of get a little sneak peek of what the art looks like right there. It's kind of cartoony in nature, but at the same time, it's just really light and bright and very Superman-like because it is light and bright. I don't know if any other two words can work with it as well as those two do. The story is absolutely beautifully interesting. Superboy is so completely torn on if he's more Superman or if he's more Lex Luthor. And it's quite beautiful because at the very end he comes to a realization. He's not Superman. He's not Lex Luthor. He is Superboy. Plain, flat, and simple. He can't be anyone else other than him. And it's just the journey to figure out that realization is great. The moments between Tim and Cassie, or Cassandra, or whatever you want to give her as a nickname, Wonder Girl, is absolutely beautiful, particularly the Wonder Girl one. These two has such an interesting relationship in Teen Titans, and you can even argue back in Young Justice too. And when he died, it devastated her world. It devastated Tim's world too, but Tim had a little bit more baggage, you know, with the death of his father, the death of his girlfriend, the death of Connor, and then the death of Batman. I mean, lots of emotional baggage. But see, Wonder Girl, her relationship with him just was so beautiful. And when he died, she went into a spiral of darkness. And it's great because in this, she tells him about the kiss with Tim, because they kissed when he was dead, and how she feels like she's betrayed him, and how she feels like he's cheated on her. She's cheated on him, and he basically just says, you know, it's okay. I was dead. You moved on. Don't worry. I'm here now. We're here now. I don't want to miss a thing. I don't want to miss one smile. I don't want to miss one kiss. Okay, I'll stop. I'm not Steven Tyler. But you get the point. It's just such a mature and beautiful scene between these two, who were very immature a couple years ago. And it's really well done between those two. Oh, and Lex. Oh my, Lex Luthor. Was he great in this? My favorite quote from Lex in this was when Superboy said, "Lex, you did it. It's a miracle." And Lex said, turning his head, "There's no such thing as miracles. But there is Lex Luthor." How freaking awesome is that? It is just great. So, Lex Luthor is just brilliantly done here. Bad. Well, one bad is, what the hell is Brainiac doing? You're a conqueror of worlds, and you're doing errands for Lex Luthor. Really? Really? Throwing a little Miz in there. Really? I mean, Brainiac just feels like the most out of place piece of shit right now. I mean, it's kind of cool that him and Lex are working together, and that kind of leads into the new Krypton material. But really, if I am Lex Luthor, or better yet, if I am Brainiac, why would I listen to Lex Luthor? I can see myself sitting there. I'm a conqueror of worlds. What was that, Lex? Oh, you want to go meet your genetic clone? Well, okay. It just seems a little out of place for the character, especially with how Brainiac's being portrayed now. Besides that, though, there's no real bads. Brainiac feeling out of place was about it. And I have to honestly and openly admit, this was absolutely fantastic. I was gripped into this. This worked so well with Superboy as a character, tied up so much character loose ends, really delved and divulged into who he is as a person. The art was great, the action was great. Very little action, but what action we had was great. And the characterization of the supporting characters, Wonder Girl, Red Robin, Lex Luthor, Ma, even the dog Crypto, which I used to never like Crypto, and now Crypto's a fucking man. In the Coming of Atlas, he was like the main dog. In this, he's awesome. And really, it was a good story. I do have one problem. Where do we go from here? I'm being honest. Where do we go from here? I love Superboy. I really do. And I love this comic. I really do. But really, where do you go from there? I mean, what do you do with his comic? What is it going to be based of? What kind of villains is it going to have? Is it going to be all character driven? It's going to be action driven? I really don't know where this comic is go from here. To be honest, I don't see much good coming from this series until they actually get their footing. This is a great reintroduction of Superboy into the DC universe, but really didn't do anything for the comic because we have no structure, we have no drive, we don't have any purpose with this. If I could throw in my 2 cents in, whether you like it or you don't, I'm going to be throwing it in. If you're going to do a Superboy comic, one thing that I think would be really good is have it be a comic where him and Crypto work a lot together. Crypto and Superboy are great together. They're absolutely beautiful. In addition to that, have Ma, Superman's mother, be a predominant figure in his life. And the supervillains should be the B-rated to C-rated supervillains that are not being used in Superman, like the Parasect, Livewire. I don't know. You can even throw Match in there, the clone of Superboy. And Lex Luthor kind of alludes to the fact that he's once again cloning himself, only this time with Brainiac, so then you can then get Brainy Boy there. So, you need to have the right kind of villains thrown in there. And Wonder Girl and Red Robin should be showing up every once in a while, because nothing works better in a comic than a good supporting cast. They don't have to show up every single story arc, but maybe every other have one of them show up, because they're important parts to Superboy's life. Despite the fact that I'm not sure where this comic is going to go, I can at least guarantee you this, that Superboy, Boy of Steel, was a fantastically done comic. And although it was short, it was definitely sweet. And at a price of $14.95, you can't really go wrong. If you do nothing else with Superboy, if you don't pick up anything before this or anything after this, at least pick up this. because it really is a great comic book and a great story arc. So with that said, I'm going to end this review here. Superboy, Boy of Steel. How about we call it the Comic of Steel? This is Andrew saying peace out for now.